long time since the last Midnight Oil Garage project, and don't worry, I've been very busy on lots of different projects, like this one for example, 1980 Sunray Kingfisher fiberglass fishing boat. This one came to me a little bit by accident, it cost me $100. I used it last summer, and by the time the summer was over, noticed that the transom was getting a little soft, the seats were a little soft, and you know what, I seriously considered throwing it in the trash and buying a new boat, but instead I invested a little bit of money and a lot of time, and you know what, I'm really proud of the results here today. And this is the sort of project you guys can do too. Now this has been a neat project because there's been a lot of different areas that we've used that we don't normally use in the garage. For example, there's been some woodwork, there's been fiberglass work, there's been metal work on the trailer, heck, there's even upholstery work on this thing. So what we've done is I've put together a slideshow of the whole resto process, before, during, and after. Sit back, take a look, and enjoy. So it was about the middle of last summer when we found ourselves in need of a bigger boat. An online search provided quite a few options, but only one in my price range, which was this green behemoth you see in front of you. It cost about $100, and I thought it was just a temporary solution, but as you can see, it really proved itself. We had a 6 horsepower outboard on the back, which didn't even get it up on plane, except for maybe when just one person was driving it. But we've since upgraded to a 15 horse, and it's really doing the trick. Now with that 15 horsepower motor, there's a lot of stress on the transom, and the old transom was getting quite rotten. I decided to bring it into the shop and do some work. First thing I did was get some high-grade marine plywood, laminated it together with urethane glue, and cut a chamfer or a slice through a piece of the wood that I eventually slipped a piece of angle iron into to brace the transom. Here the wood's done curing, and I'm mocking it up against the actual transom of the boat to make sure I can accurately cut the shape. With the shape all marked out, I cut it with a jigsaw. You can see here the slot where the angle iron will eventually fit. And I went to town removing the rest of the rot from the boat. Here I'm cleaning up inside the transom area, removing all traces of the old rotten wood. Again, using a high-grade urethane adhesive, I inserted my new transom inside the slot where the old one once was. With a lot of gluing pressure set up, I allowed it to dry for a number of days. Here I'm making some custom touches where the seats once were, improving the strength, and also adding some storage features. Now the glue's mostly dried, and I'm starting to clean up the area in preparation for fiberglass. Where necessary, I use long strand filler and regular Bondo filler to smooth the areas prior to the fiberglass application. With everything vacuumed and cleaned, it was time to mix up the resin. This is an unwaxed polyester resin with hardener. And everywhere where I had wood exposed, I built up multiple layers of fiberglass cloth, or mat, and resin. Here I've mocked up with the new seat locations. Part of the reason for bracing the old seats was to allow for the placement of new pedestal seats. Where the fiberglass mat was used, it leaves a rough surface afterwards, so I used some Bondo filler, short strand filler, just to smooth out the areas that we're going to show, so they eventually take the paint well, to more accurately resemble a factory finish. And once everything was sanded, I began painting. In this case, just used a roller and a brush. The paint went on quite nicely. Ended up doing 2 coats. The hull had been repaired a number of times by the previous owner, including the application of a steel strip along the main part of the keel. Unfortunately, their fiberglass repair didn't hold because they didn't properly prepare the surface first, as I'm doing here. One needs to roughen up the surface before application of fiberglass or hardener. Here I've found a few other areas of wear where I'm going to apply some fiberglass cloth. Now with the resin dry, I sanded the areas, smoothed them out. Ultimately, I laid down another coat of resin on these areas, just so it's extra strong. Now came the fun part, preserving the original gel coat. First a wet sand with 400 grit sandpaper, and then a heavy-duty compound with a rotary buffer. Grand total, probably about 2 hours invested in polishing the hull back to a mirror shine. From what it once looked like, all oxidized and damaged and scratched, to what it looks like now is quite an improvement. Stayed away from painting the hull because the old gel coats are so resilient, and I fully intend to smash into a few rocks and beach this boat in the future, so didn't want the heartache of scratched paint on the outside. I enlisted some help when it came to painting the trailer. Refreshed the lights, the tires, the paint. Then I got back to working on the interior. Decided it would be nice to add some nice vinyl seats over the storage areas. Put in the bases for the seat pedestals. And some protection where the seats might eventually bump into the hull when they're swiveled. It was all back on its trailer. Here's the finished product. The seats have raising pedestals, 12 inches high. There's 2 storage compartments in the main seats where there never was before. Here you can see the new rear storage compartments. The seats, the cedar decking. And also you can make out the angle iron brace that was inserted into the transom. All in all, a great project. Well, I hope you enjoyed that process as much as I enjoyed showing it to you. You know, it was a really neat project, and I can't wait to get out on the water and try this thing out. In the meantime, covering it up, protecting it. You know, I was at the store the other day, and I was pricing out similar boats. A brand new boat, the best price I could get is about $2,000 bucks. Total into this boat, I've got about $600, plus some work on my side. Oh, and I have a trailer too, all included in that price. So, you know what? Sometimes doing the work yourself can give you exactly what you want, and you can save a lot of money. And if you change your mind down the road, maybe you can put a for sale sign on it and recoup some of your money. So, I'm going fishing. The rest of you, until next time, get out to your garage and burn the midnight oil.